Well, I wanted to go on at exactly 3 p.m., but I forgot my snacks and stuff. If you're wondering what this is, I wear a back brace because I have severe scoliosis. It helps me walk straight and not look like I'm slumped over and stuff. Started wearing it probably a couple months ago, and it's already helping. So, yeah, that's that's what that is. But you got to keep tightening it because sometimes it slips up. Anyways, off the rabbit off the rabbit trail, Golden Blue. Stop doing that. Let's focus. College football, conference realignment, and this is about something that was discussed with me last night. Not just one source, not just two sources, three different sources were saying the same thing. We've all kind of forgot about Oregon and Washington actually being turned down by the Big Ten, unless you're an Oregon and Washington fan. Well, it looks like that news is starting to affect the present. Before we go on any further, make sure to hit the like button. That helps this video hit the YouTube algorithm, gets it suggested more. More people click on it, more people see it, and boom, we have a bigger audience. That's how you grow a video. So if you will, please hit the like button. It's not a pat on the back, nothing like that. It helps grow the video. In case you're new around here, I'm Golden Blue Dude. Welcome to Golden Blue Dude. And what we do is college football. That is what we do. College football. So if you're not a college football fan, then I wouldn't even bother because that's all we do here. But if you are a college football fan, I highly suggest that you hit the subscribe. And on top of that, we are only about 100 subscribers away from 9,000. It's getting close. Now, we're running out of time to get to 10,000 before the beginning of the season. We'll definitely hit 10,000 by the end of the year. But, man, if we can squeeze that 10,000 in before the start of the season, that would be awesome. But only about 100 subscribers away from 9,000. So if you're watching this video and you haven't hit the subscribe button, and you're a college football fan, that's an important stipulation. College football fan. Otherwise, you're not going to like it. Hit the subscribe button. Help us get to 9,000 subscribers in the next couple of days, and maybe we can squeeze it to 10,000 by the beginning of the year. Yes, of course, I forgot the StreamYard link. Give me 1 second, guys. It's sad that the audience remembers better than I do about the link. You know, I should have it on there like right when I start, but never. I haven't done it once yet. It's all been you guys either reminding me or me just remembering during the show. So let me get that on here real quick. Let's see. I think that's it. Let me double check here, guys. I know yesterday I forgot like a slash or something, and it didn't work for the first couple tries. So hold on. That should be it. If it doesn't work, y'all let me know, and I'll try to repost it. That's how you call in here. We've done away with the phone number. I mean, the quality is better if you do it this way. And don't worry, if you don't like being on camera, just turn your camera off. It's still pretty much the same thing as calling in. We just do it through the internet instead of over a phone line. So there you go. If you want to jump on the show and tell me what for, or you got, just want to talk, whatever, there's a StreamYard link. If you have a specific question that you want me to address, or just a comment that you want me to read, or you want to make fun of me, whatever, Super Chat is the best way to do it. It is that little bitty dollar sign down on the bottom right-hand corner, right under the comment section. Anything put into a Super Chat, I will put on the screen. I will read it. I will say who it's from. Of course, I will thank you because that is supporting Golden Blue Dude, and I appreciate that. So any questions that you want me to put on the screen, you want me to address, Super Chat, or any other comments that you just want me to read and address, or you want to make fun of me, Super Chat's the way to go. Let me get Joey on here real quick. Joey, if you will, real quick, I actually have a bit of a headache right now, so I'm going to take some time off real quick. I'm going to go full to you, then I'll jump back on, all right?
Sounds good, man. Hey, everybody, so we have brand emails set up now. So if you want to contact Golden Blue Dude. His email is real simple. It's just gbd@goldenbluedude.com. If you want to contact me, it's just joey@goldenbluedude.com. If you want to be a writer for Golden Blue Dude, contact Scott. Scotty B. the Baylor King is our head writer, and his email is scott@goldenbluedude.com. And we also have a new social media coordinator, Manuel Brown. Want a big shout out to him. He's doing a great job for us over on social media. And his email is manyo, MANYOO, @goldenbluedude.com.
Yeah, that's some new stuff that we come out with as far as different titles for different people, because guys, I'm telling you, Golden Blue Dude is exploding right now. It's getting national attention from the internet. Now, not ESPN or anything like that, but like it's starting to appear on some threads that I'm like, whoa, I didn't see that coming. I actually shared it with Joey the other day, and it kind of surprised Joey as well. Golden Blue Dude is starting to get the attention of the big dogs, and that's a good thing. So we had to change some things up. And social media is a big deal, but I don't have time for it. And that's not saying it's not important, because it is important. But right now I'm pumping out 2 videos a day. Today I scaled it back to 1 because I want to do the live show, and then I got some family stuff later on. But that's still, I mean, right there, that's 8 hours nonstop that I go. I start probably around 10 a.m., 11 a.m., and go to around 6 o'clock as far as shooting the video, editing, promoting, and then the live show. I mean, it's 8 hours straight. It's literally like a work day. So I don't have time for the social media thing. So I'm actually grateful to Manu for being able to take over the reins on that, because I've fallen way behind on that. So the news that we're talking about today is something that we talked about last night. So we know for sure that Arizona and Colorado, they're going to apply to the Pac-12. Not Pac-12, Big 12, excuse me. They're going to apply to the Big 12. And it was expected that the Big 12 would pretty much accept them immediately. Then it comes out that Oregon's kind of making a splash right now because they're scared. They wanted to go to the Big Ten, but the Big Ten said no. They literally applied with Washington. Big Ten flat out denied them. They don't want to get stuck on a sinking ship with the Pac-12 and maybe add some group of 5 teams. It's still not going to be a good TV deal. They're worried about the money. They're looking at the Big 12. They're renegotiating. And, you add big brands like Oregon and Washington, and the renegotiations could go even higher. So Oregon and Washington are seriously looking at the Big 12 right now. They are in talks with the Big 12 right now, talking about travel, talking about scheduling, talking about all that stuff. So if that happens, I think this is going to, and I think you agree with me, this is going to happen in stages. And if Washington and Oregon are interested, they're going to put Arizona and Colorado on the back burner, and it's going to be Washington and Oregon gets the priority. The reason they're going to do this, because I saw a lot of comments on the video that I made today, like, well, why don't they just do it all together? Well, they want to make it seem like the acceptance is even more important. We're not just taking all comers. We're taking, the highest brands that apply and then go from there. So they're not going to leave Arizona and Colorado out. No, that's not what's happening. What's happening is they just might have to wait. That way the Big 12 can frame it to where they're accepting Oregon and Washington first, and then Arizona and Colorado, and then Arizona State and Utah. Sergeant Pickles 13, thank you for the $2 donation. He says, Big 12 take UW, meaning Washington, Oregon, with an out clause and fee for 2026. Now, I don't think they would do that, because I know why you're saying that. It's because of the Big Ten. Maybe the Big Ten changes their mind later on. But actually, because of that, the Big 12 needs to do the opposite. They would actually need to lock them in because of that threat in the future. Because maybe the Big 12 is a nice soft landing spot for now, but if the Big Ten comes calling later and you give them an out, they're going to take it. Easy. Big Ten's making big-time bucks. In fact, they will be the highest paid. A lot of people are putting a lot of emphasis on the SEC contract. Big Ten's going to be even bigger than the SEC from what I'm seeing. So that is a lot of money, and they will most certainly bail on the Big 12, especially if you give them an out and they don't have to pay a thing. I don't know. Not sure
I
about
think
that.
that
Maybe it. Now I
I
saw.
think
I
you're
see your
exactly
second
right.
comment, a paid out. Yeah, make it substantial. If they want to get out, then make it make some money off of them. I would agree with that.
I think you're right, dead on with Oregon. Exploring the option of the Big 12 coming into the Big 12. I think that's a great point. Um, I don't know about Washington though because of their president being a chairman within the Pac-12. They're going to want to hold off. They're going to want to try to save the Pac-12 for all they can. So that might in turn force the hand of the Big 12 to take Arizona and Colorado and try to break the Pac-12 up a little bit so that they're a little bit more damaged, and then Washington and Oregon will come. Who knows? But 4 teams would be okay. I don't think we should go any further than 4 more teams in the Big 12. And Oregon and Washington would be the big get. That would just be
Yeah.
because that would increase the revenue for everyone.
Yeah, that's the goal here. You're not adding teams just to be adding teams. You're adding teams that's going to increase the revenue. The 304 podcast, thank you for the $1.99 donation, says the Big 12 has put themselves in a great position. I 100% agree. And that makes me go back to what you just said as far as the president of Washington being a chairman for the board on the Pac-12. And so is Oregon really that closely linked to Washington that if they hold off, they're most definitely going to hold off? What if they decide, hey, screw Washington, we want a soft landing spot now. We'll pair with Colorado or Arizona, and then we can go from there.
I think if Oregon wants a seat at the big boy table, they're going to have to jump when they can, because if they
Yeah.
if they hold out and Big 12 takes Arizona and Colorado, then all of a sudden that weakens Pac-12 even more. It's doomed. We know it's doomed already, but that's going to really doom it. And then Oregon could get left out of everything until 2026-27. And what are they going to do to make college football playoff if they go undefeated in a very weakened Pac-12? They won't do much. So I think
Yeah,
that
and a lot of people don't realize this as well. I mentioned it in the video. Oregon and Washington are basically holding the Pac-12 hostage as well because they're demanding to be paid double what everybody else is going to be paid out of this TV revenue. So that's we could see some massive friction between Oregon and Washington, and then everybody else that's in the Pac-12. Hey Jeff, what's going on, buddy?
Hey guys, how are you guys
you say,
today?
Jeff,
Another great day,
good,
buddy.
man.
Onward and upward.
The only problem I have with the Big 12 thinking they're going to get Oregon is Phil Knight. Phil Knight has reiterated he does not want Oregon anywhere but the Big Ten or the SEC.
Yeah, but what if those are not on the board? What if it's between the Pac-12 and the Big 12, and the Pac-12 can't come anywhere close to Big 12 money?
Once you see
What about a stepping stone? Like use the Big 12 as a stepping stone. That way you're not losing a ton of revenue. And then in the future, if they go to the Big 10, so be it.
what I think you're seeing is the Big Ten and the SEC just sitting back to see which conference acts first, the Big 12 or the ACC. I personally do not see Fox or ESPN wanting Oregon anywhere but the Big Ten or the SEC. I really don't, because I like the Big 12, and it's always been my second favorite conference.
Right.
But no matter who they grab, they're not going to equal the Big Ten. They're not going to equal the SEC. So I understand where people are saying, well, they'll get a seat at the table. The Big 12 is not going to give you a seat at the table, and the ACC is not going to give you a seat at the table when all the chairs, I mean, we're still playing musical chairs. Music's still going.
Yep.
Chairs are still being pulled. the Big Ten will eventually take Oregon. I truly believe. You can't tell me that there's 16 other teams out there better than Oregon.
J.K. Marshall says ESPN wants Oregon to the ACC. That's actually true. I actually heard that a couple weeks ago, and that's held firm. And that's one of the reasons why the ACC is renegotiating their TV deal with ESPN, because they're going to try to go get those big brands. So what if the ACC enters this conversation and Oregon has a choice between the Big 12 and the ACC? Would Phil Knight be okay with the ACC?
I think Phil Knight might be okay with the ACC, but again, I think that anybody who goes to the ACC or the Big 12, the music's not done yet. I mean,
Right.
We got to see, and nobody knows the answer. Is the Big 10 and the SEC, are we going to 20 or are we going to 24?
Right. That's what's the end goal is what everybody's, trying to figure out. I see that the chat blew up. So everybody that's just entered the video or the chat, please hit the like button. It's already helped grow the video, but the more you hit the like button, the more it gets suggested and hits the algorithm, and the bigger the comment section gets. So that tells me that all the people that jumped on earlier hit the like button, and we're blowing up. So all the new people, if you would, please, we'd appreciate it. Hit the like button, and it'll get even bigger. You got a question or a comment for me or any of my guests, hit the super chat button. Question, comment, troll, whatever. We will put it on the screen, and I'll read it, and we'll address it, and we'll probably have a conversation, because usually when somebody super chats, it's something that an entire conversation can evolve out of. I love those super chats. That they're sometimes it's stuff that I didn't even think of that makes sense. You know what I'm saying?
Now, the other thing, and I think this was in your chat earlier, or maybe it was on one of your videos, and I've heard this 3 different times, and I can't say it's not true, but I'm hearing the Pac-12 really wants to bring in San Diego State.
I'm hearing that too.
Of course.
And I like San Diego State, but I don't think San Diego State and Boise State's the answer.
No. If you're going to do that, you need to do it before USC and UCLA left. Now it just looks like you're getting desperate.
They won't take Boise. They'll take San Diego State and SMU probably.
I really feel bad for Boise State, because I had them at the top of the list as far as possibly getting an invite from the Big 12, because they did show initiative and showing that they are going to put a ton of money into their facilities. But with the Pac-12 falling apart, they kind of went to the bottom of the list. And Boise State is a great Group of 5 brand, one of the best. It's just how much money, how much do they move the needle for TV revenue? I'm not sure.
Well, I watched a YouTuber today that I thought was just great. He said that the Big 12 needs to grab UNLV and Tulane. That way, if nothing else, the Big 12 can go party in Vegas and party in New Orleans.
Yeah, I see in the comment section people talking about Fresno State as well. That's one brand that I overlook, and I shouldn't. It's not on purpose, but it's just not a lot of people are talking about them. But I do think Fresno State holds some value. If you had to choose between Fresno State and San Diego State, who would you go with?
Actually, right now, I would go with San Diego State. And here's the reason. Fresno State, to me, is kind of on a downhill. They used to be powerful back in the early 2000s. They were a really good team, and they've kind of slid a little bit. They're still a good team. And I still would want them. But the money that San Diego State has invested in facilities have to mean something.
Yeah, there's 2 different arguments when it comes to Fresno State and San Diego State. San Diego State just proved they're willing to invest a lot of money into their football program with that new stadium. It holds, I think, 45,000, something like that. But they don't have the fan support that Fresno State does. Now, if those fans would get behind San Diego State even more, and, the TV market of San Diego is massive. They just need to tap into it more. They have a lot of potential, but they have got to tap into it more, get the interest of the surrounding community, invested into San Diego State more. And that's exactly what they've done with that new stadium. So they're doing everything that they can do. Now it's up to the fans to buy into it.
So why don't San Diego State start having Navy night or Navy Day at the park? Because there's a huge naval yard right there in San Diego. You got the Marine Corps up in Camp Pendleton in between, because I was stationed there for a bit, in between LA and San Diego.
Yeah.
But now you've watched Fresno State play for a long time.
They put everybody on upset alert. For the past 5 years, whoever they played, if it's a Power 5 team, they label that game upset alert because they know Fresno State is capable of upsetting them.
And to me, they kind of play like a service academy.
Yeah.
They don't have the talent, but they have the heart. And
they play hard.
They're going to play you.
Hey, Shooter, what's going on? Every time I see your name, I always think of the movie Happy Gilmore with Shooter McGavin, the bad guy. I love it.
Yeah, I don't play golf that well.
I gotcha.
I used to.
Hold on. Let me get to this super chat real quick. Thank you, Vanity Rose, for the $5 donation. Says, Fresno is solid. I say both Fresno and San Diego State. Remember, Golden Blue Dude, you keep picking UCLA to win the Pac this year, and Fresno beat them. That's true. But would they beat them this year? Would be my question. It's your, because I think UCLA's on the uptick. I don't know. I don't understand why UCLA's not getting more buzz, because if you look at what Chip Kelly has done at what happened? Oh,
I brought that up.
Oh, okay, sure.
No, that is something that I brought up.
Gotcha. I got you. Because what Chip Kelly has done at UCLA is he's recruiting at a high level compared to what they were recruiting, and he's keeping his talent from transferring. It's one thing to recruit high talent. It's another thing to keep high talent. Look at Arizona State. They lost Jaden Daniels to LSU. All the teams around them losing talent, transferring. UCLA's not doing that. And last year, UCLA went 8-4. It's not like they missed a ball or barely missed or barely made a ball. They went 8-4. They were a good team, and that offense comes back mostly intact, and the defense seems to be getting better and better and better. So why people are not talking about UCLA more is beyond me. I think they're more than capable of having a 10-win season this year.
I think a lot of people look at like Nick Saban, and he came into Alabama, and the next year we were winning.
Right.
It don't happen that often. A quick turnaround, especially when you've been down that long. Hell, look at Texas A&M. We hype them up every year, and they're 8-4 team every year.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's what I was talking about yesterday. Ohio State gets hyped every year by ESPN, and they're pretty good pretty much every year. But ESPN has an agenda. Even though Ohio State's in the Big Ten and Fox has the media rights, when Ohio State goes to playoffs, they bring in big-time viewership. Ohio State fans come out in droves. So that's why ESPN hypes them up. And I think this is one of the years where the hype might be real. I think Ohio State has a real shot of getting to the national championship this year. I have them as the second best team behind Alabama.
And
I brought this up because somebody had mentioned something about, well, why not Boise State in the Pac-12? This is Boise State I have highlighted here in blue. And if this right here, see that I just highlighted in blue, R2. They're not R1. They're not AAU. And their annual giving is $35.4 million. Compare that to like a Stanford. Stanford's is like $2 billion. It's unreal. So, that's why the Pac-12 would not take Boise.
Well, yeah, and I think Boise, as fun as they are sometimes to watch, they really aren't going to bring the TV eyeballs that you really need. And that's the same thing with Fresno State. You could say it even about San Diego State. I like those programs. I like to watch them play. I like it when they are the underdog and they beat the big boys. But if you're talking about adding somebody to a conference, you really got to think like a media partner. And a media partner wants eyeballs, TV eyeballs. I mean, sometimes sometimes we talk about filling up stadiums and stadium size, but TV partners don't care. They care about how many people are watching on TV. That's bottom line. And that's one thing Ohio State, like you talked about, they do that big time. Boise State, I love them, but man, they're just not going to draw the eyeballs that are going to get them into a P5. And by the way, somebody's saying something about the Big 12. I'm just going to say right now, Big 12 is done taking G5 programs. We've got them. We got all we're going to take. And at this point, we'd rather stay at 12 than take any more G5. So the idea that the Big 12 is going to add SMU or San Diego State or something else,
that'd be a bad move.
They were talking about the Pac-12. They were talking about the Pac-12 adding San Diego State, and they said San Diego State and Boise, and I said they won't add Boise. They would take SMU or Rice long before they would take Boise.
Well, I think they'd take SMU. I agree with you there. Dallas-Fort Worth.
Yeah.
Rice, you would take it for academics, but you ain't gonna get. I mean, they don't fill their stadium and they don't watch TV. Those guys are too smart for anything. I mean, they're. Good God. But
and that sucks for Boise State fans because they're very passionate. I mean, they support their team. It's just they don't bring the money that some of these other brands bring. I mean, if I would have seen Boise State roll out a deal kind of like what San Diego State did, like hundreds of millions of dollars into their football stadium, or an expansion package of, worth over $100 million to where they expand to over 50,000, 60,000. That might have got people to thinking, but the package that they rolled out bumps their capacity from 36,000 to 40,000, like barely meeting the threshold of the Big 12. You got to set the bar higher if you want to turn heads.
Well,
it's not just let's hit the bare minimum. Go above and beyond that.
I think that 10 or 15 years from now, it could be a different conversation because
the
state of Idaho itself is growing, but it is way behind. I mean, that it's a small population state. So, as they continue to grow and there's a lot of people move into Boise area, we could see things change, but you're talking a long ways down the road. So they're going to be the top of the G5, and then who knows what happens down the road. But right now, it's as far from a Big 12 point of view. And by the way, the last I heard was that ASU is saying no, and they're trying to get Arizona to say no, and they're not having any luck. Arizona is too smart to look at this and say, "Oh, let's stay with the Pac-12. Let's make 25."
Why is Arizona State doing that? That's stupid.
They have this
projected revenue.
Yeah, they think they're going to be a big dog in the Pac-12, and now that UCLA and USC are gone, they're going to have the Southern California Pac-12 to themselves, which I think is foolish. But and then the idea that they're going to make 30 to 32 million a year, and be happy, they're going to get so far behind in NIL money that
exactly.
Their recruiting is going to drop off.
They're not thinking ahead.
No.
I like this comment right here. Vanity Rose, thank you for the $5 donation, says, Boise might not bring as many eyes, but they could help with wins. I actually agree with that. My Pac-12 lost every bowl last year. If we can't get eyes, then I'll settle for wins. That's the argument that I'm talking about. Boise has had some really good football teams. Yeah. They just don't make the money. If they could get the money to match the success, Boise State would become a hot brand for possible expansion.
So why don't we bring in North Dakota State?
You would also be talking
North Dakota,
Well, North Dakota State, they need to build a bigger stadium as well. I think they're only holding like 15,000, something
15,000.
Like that. Yeah, that's not good at all.
Well, I mean, again, look at the population in North Dakota.
That's Pac-12.
The Pac-12 would have to completely reverse its course and reverse everything it's doing if it takes someone like Boise, because of the academic level that the Pac-12 has held its standards up to all these years. That's the biggest reason they would not take a Boise State, in my opinion. Hey, it could happen. Anything can happen in college football, right? But they would have to completely reverse their course. Whereas they wouldn't have to if they went with San Diego State, SMU, or Rice, someone like that. But there's just too many teams out there that can keep the academic level like it is in the Pac-12. If they want to stay a conference and they bring these teams in, but they ain't going to help. It isn't going to help them with money, so it's not going to keep teams in the Pac-12.
Right.
Bringing in San Diego State and SMU is not going to raise the money any. So, is Arizona and Colorado going to stay? Is Oregon and Washington going to stay? I don't see Oregon and Washington staying for $30 million a year.
Let me ask you this, Joey. In the future, if I don't know, the ACC or the Big 12, heck, even the Pac-12 decide they do want to take one more risk or chance on a group of 5 team, who would be the best candidates right now? I know that's a big what if, and it's more than likely not going to happen. But if it came down to that,
the best candidate by far is probably if you're talking about Big 12 or Pac-12, you're talking about San Diego State, probably the best candidate. That would be my opinion.
I would say Memphis. Yeah, I mean San Diego State would be Memphis right in there. Yeah.
Yeah, Memphis.
I'll tell you the one I would say.
What's that, Jim? Jeff?
I would say UNLV, and here's why. Look what UNLV did for the Oakland Raiders when they moved to Las Vegas. They had the biggest ticket of all the NFL teams. You're going to get a lot of people who will fly in there to watch their team play UNLV. I mean, you're not going to have a lot of UNLV fans. It's going to be outside people coming in.
You know what I've thought about? What if the Las Vegas Raiders were willing to chip in some money to the Rebels to help build their brand, to help get them to a Power 5? I don't know how that would work or if it's even possible. But, man, if they could get help from their professional team, that would be that would be a really good thing for UNLV. Hold on. John Waffle HGP, thank you for the $1.99 donation. Says Boise State is an over-budgeted community college. A lot of people have that opinion about Boise State, and I can see why. But they fielded some pretty good football teams. That's the only pushback that I would have for that.
So San Diego State's average annual giving is $77.2 million, and Memphis's annual giving is $35.4 million.
Wow.
Yeah.
What did you say Boise
San
State's
Diego
for?
State doubles that. Boise is 35.4, and San Diego is 77.2.
I think the big thing there, Joey, for me, is that if you're going to take somebody on the West Coast, for me, you take Oregon, you take Washington. San Diego State would be third place in there. Memphis is in a spot that I like geographically. I like the growth of it. I like the FedEx, all those tie-ins, and it travel and all that. It just sort of makes a lot of logical sense where it's located. I like San Diego State. I like San Diego. I like the city. I think a lot of people would travel there and be happy to take a road game. I don't know about Gold and Blue. It's pretty far ways to go, but from Texas, it ain't so bad. But, if you're really looking at growth potential long-term and all that kind of stuff, for me personally, I think we're going to load up on the West already. Let's, now if you're talking ACC trying to go coast to coast, I'm with you there. I think the ACC would take San Diego State just to get that coast to coast because they're trying to compete with that. That makes sense to me, and they would get that California. But I don't know the Big 12 is going to go that way personally.
I agree with you. I don't think the Big 12. No, the Big 12 is not going to do it. The Pac-12 though is what I was talking about with San Diego State. That's who I think would be the obvious choice for them. San Diego State. Big 12, no group of 5. There's too much option right now with Arizona, Colorado, possibly Oregon and Washington to go take a group of 5 teams. It's silly.
Yeah, Pac-12 should have taken San Diego State 10 years ago.
Joey, can you do me a favor? Can you pop out and pop back in?
Yeah.
It made you the main. That's why.
Yeah, I think
Pac-12
should have taken San Diego State, should have taken BYU, should have taken a few different places. Yeah.
Hold on. Vandy Rose, thank you for the $5 donation. Says To hell with academic principles. We're dying. 100% agree. San Diego State, Fresno State, Boise State, and Utah State, please no UNLV. The last time they won 10 games was 1984. It's a good argument.
One thing I've always wondered is people will say Utah State. I think for me, I'd rather have Air Force in that group.
I would actually go between if you're not going to go for UNLV, go for Nevada. That's a new state, and Nevada has a pretty good brand. I would rank it up there. Maybe not as high as San Diego State or Fresno State, but if you're going to put them up against Boise State or Utah State, I think you have an argument for Nevada.
But he's upset that UNLV hasn't won 10 games since 1984. When did Iowa State ever win 10 games?
Never.
Oh,
I can tell you that right off the bat. They never have. But,
yeah, I know that too. So I mean.
But they are the perennial upsetters. I mean, they come in and blow up your season for you. West Virginia did that to Baylor a couple times. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
But
yeah, exactly.
That's the one thing I will say. A lot of people have underrated the Big 12 for a number of years. And the problem is you always have an Iowa State, an Oklahoma State, a West Virginia, a Kansas, even Baylor, even Texas Tech. I mean, somebody that just come in and spoil it for somebody that's on a roll. And, I feel like in the Pac-12, you only have a few to watch out for, But in the Big 12, you can't turn your back on anybody. Just ask UT about Kansas.
The one thing that I'm wondering is why are people not talking about Stanford more as far as potentially getting to the Big 12 or the Big 10? Because I know when you think of powerhouse football programs, you don't necessarily think of Stanford, but Stanford has more money than people realize. A lot more. Look, and I did a video on this. I have to edit it and everything, so this is a little bit of a spoiler alert. I talked about Kirby Smart's raise, so I went on to talk about the top 10 highest paid coaches, and then my list, who I thought should be the top 10 highest paid coaches. And David Shaw, the coach for Stanford, is a top 10 highest paid coach in college football, bringing home $9 million a year.
Whew.
How surprising is that?
Wow.
Well, the thing about it is, I don't think anybody's talking about Stanford because I think as you see where Notre Dame goes, I think Stanford is going to follow. So I think everybody's
That's where I was going.
laying back and saying, well, let's just see what Notre Dame does because Stanford's probably going to follow wherever they go.
But hold on. But we heard the other day that Notre Dame is looking to get to $75 million a year per payout. Whoever wants to subsidize that, find whatever, whether it's ESPN, the ACC, or Fox and the Big Ten or the Big 12. If they get to that $75 million a year and stay independent, the Big 12 better be busting down the doors of Stanford to get them in because that is a footprint in the state of California, and that is kind of the opening up a treasure trove to a lot of money. Stanford makes a lot of money, way more than people realize, way more.
If Notre Dame stays independent, I don't see Stanford wanting to go anywhere. I think they would be fine just sitting at the Pac-12 because eventually Notre Dame will go somewhere. It could be. Here's the thing: everybody talks about the two big super conferences, blah blah blah. I don't think that's what's going to happen because I don't think you're going to end up with two super conferences that include Illinois, Maryland, Rutgers, Vanderbilt, South Carolina. Sorry, South Carolina, you might be better, but dang. But and Mississippi State. I mean, the reality is, I think what's going to happen is there's going to be a whole new entity created. And then that organization is going to send out invitations for a football-only league. And they're going to send out invitations to the top 50 programs in the country or 60 programs, but they're not going to have all this headway. So, but we're going to get there. That'll be years down the road. Right now, we're where we're at. So
right.
I think Stanford would go independent, but I think they would go independent before they would join the Big 12 myself.
Agree.
Yeah, they'll be independent for sure.
Yeah.
And they've got way too much money not to. I mean, they don't have to be anywhere.
They really don't need the TV money as much as everybody else, and their recruiting is already limited by their academics so much that the NIL and all that is. I mean, it's you either go to Stanford because you want that degree, and football gets you there, or you're going to go somewhere else and not beat your head against that academic wall.
Yeah,
so, they don't need the money.
Hey, Kenny, what's going on, buddy?
Hey, not much. I just think Stanford won't come because of the religion stance they have in the Big 12. That's the reason I say they won't come to the Big 12.
Yeah, that was the whole reason why the Pac-12 left out BYU. That's actually a good point. And it's the California schools in particular that are that way. So that would be my question as far as I know it was leaning towards San Diego State to the Pac-12. But that's why I don't think San Diego State would ever join the Big 12 because, number one, I don't think the Big 12 is interested in any more Group of 5 teams. And number two, San Diego State is one of those California schools that don't like that religion thing. The religion
right. And if the Big 12 did go after any teams, as far as a Group of 5, they would go after the 2 tops, which would be Boise State and Memphis.
Right.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. So, the crazy thing is, it looks like it seems like Stanford talks out of both sides of their mouth because, they're one of the teams that blocked BYU because of the religion thing, and it's one of the reasons why they probably wouldn't join the Big 12. And yet they're a arm-in-arm partner with Notre Dame, who is one of the biggest religious schools in the entire nation. So
exactly.
But I think they kiss Notre Dame's butt because of what Notre Dame academics mean.
Well, it's one thing to play somebody; it's another thing to be linked in a conference.
Right.
And I think they're happy to play the independent Notre Dame, but they don't want to be linked with Baylor, TCU, and especially BYU. So I don't, and they're not following BYU to the Big 12. I don't think they can do that to them. Hold their nose and join BYU's program, and it's not gonna happen. It ain't gonna happen.
Okay.
And another thing too. I'm sorry, GBD.
I was just going to say, do y'all think that's maybe the reason why we're not hearing, Stanford and Notre Dame to the Big Ten? Because I thought, we heard that the Big Ten was interested in Notre Dame and maybe try to get a partner with Stanford. So Stanford is okay with playing with Notre Dame, but they're not okay with joining Notre Dame in the Big Ten, even though it's big-time money. Could that be one of the reasons?
Yeah, Stanford don't care about money. They got all the money they need.
So that could be
their endowments will make them stay independent.
Wow.
I think the Big
I didn't even think about that.
I think Notre Dame is wanting to stay independent, and then so therefore Stanford's not going to be joined to the Big Ten just by themselves. And,
but do you think they were approached as a couple, I guess, and Stanford's like, we like playing them, but we don't want to be in the same conference because, like everybody said, Stanford's not hurting for money. Like, there's no real incentive. And if they're one of those schools that doesn't want to be conference affiliated with the religious school, then I'm not saying that's what happened, but it's a potential scenario that what could have happened.
Okay, but here's the question. Where does Stanford go? If they go independent, where do all the other sports go? Where do the wrestling go? Where does their basketball? Where does their baseball, softball? Where does all this go?
Pac-12. Could say in the Pac-12, kind of like what Notre Dame does. Every sport except for football is in the ACC. Well, hockey's in the Big Ten. Everything but hockey and football is in the ACC.
But the problem is the Pac-12 will be gone in a month.
I don't think the Pac-12 will completely leave their name behind. I think they'll probably keep the name and just reload with Mountain West.
Yeah. They could either.
Yeah, that's what I say is them going to the Mountain West.
Yeah, they'll have Washington State, Oregon State, Cal, Stanford, and then they'll just reload with a bunch of teams from the Mountain West, and keep on rolling with that name just for the name.
Does everybody remember, like in times past, whenever the Big 12 would announce, okay, we're open for business, like in 2016, all of a sudden you had SMU, Houston, Boise State, Memphis, everybody putting out these huge press releases on why they should be taken, why they should be in the Big 12 and all that. Now the Big 12 is open for business again. Pac-12 is open for business, but we don't see nothing from these schools. We don't see nothing. None of these press releases from these schools. I think they're holding off. I think they're just waiting to see what the hell goes on out there with the big boys, and then they're fine just sitting where they are and see where they land.
Are you talking about the group of 5 teams?
I'm talking about the group of 5 teams. I'm talking about you're not seeing these huge press releases from Memphis and SMU, Rice, and all them that you usually see talking about how big the program is and how much money they're putting into it and what they're doing to get them to a Power 5 status and all that. You don't see that right now.
Mm-hmm.
And normally like 2016, you couldn't click on an article that wasn't about Memphis and everything they're doing for their football and stuff, trying to get into Big 12. You're not seeing that right now. They're just sitting back and waiting, I believe.
Yeah.
See, here's on that point that you just said there, Joey, is the reason why. Because as long as there is a Power 5 team available, they're going to go after the Power 5s before they go to the Group of 5.
Yeah, this is that 2016 was when the Big 12 put it out there that they wanted to expand, and they asked people to submit that information, and that led to all those programs you talked about, Joey. And then, of course, UT canceled it all. I mean, and so, but that's exactly why last year the Big 12 so quickly added the 4 that they added, because they had already vetted all those guys from 2016 all the way through, and those were the ones that the rest of the Big 12 wanted UCF. They wanted BYU. And it was UT that basically said, now we're not. Now we know why. I mean, UT was already planning to leave. So, the fewer people left behind, the easier it is to fold the conference. Of course, that didn't work, but thank you for that, by the way. The Aggies
now, how bad does Nebraska right now want to go back to the Big 12?
Oh, they're not leaving the money.
No. I mean, I know they're not going to leave the money, but how much do you think they would love to be playing in the Big 12 again?
Man, I would agree with you if they were having any kind of success, but they would get their butts handed to them by K-State, Iowa State. It would be embarrassing. It's bad enough to lose to, Illinois, Indiana, Purdue, but to lose to TCU and Baylor, they would be mortified.
Yeah,
So,
I would argue against that if Nebraska was in the Big Ten East, but they're in the Big Ten West.
Yeah.
For them to be as bad as they've been in the Big Ten West is kind of like head scratching. I think if they were in the Big 12, they would not be making a bowl for sure.
No, it's sad, And
I'm old enough to remember the Big Red Machine in the early 90s. I mean, that was an unstoppable machine.
That was brutal. I mean,
But the problem is
they
wants
were
to play in Lincoln.
Yeah, they've fallen so far down the ladder now. It's going to take a while to climb back up, and they're better off just staying where they are. And I don't think the Big 12 is interested, because what do they bring right now?
Yep.
The only way they bring anything is if they dominate the conference, which we don't. Who wants
that? Not
that?
happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the things I said in the video that I made today was, and I've said it multiple times, so I'm kind of repeating myself, but it's a valid point. As far as the Big 12 taking Oregon, Washington, Arizona State, Colorado, Utah, any combination of those teams, that is what the Big 12 needs to do. It is in the best interest of the Big 12. It raises the value. The TV media deal is going to, go up. I'm not going to say through the roof, but it'll rise. But for your East teams like West Virginia, Cincinnati, UCF, that's not good, because travel is already ridiculous. I mean, the closest team that West Virginia have is Cincinnati. Then UCF, well, going to UCF is almost the same as going to Ames, Iowa, so that doesn't really help that much. UCF is the team that's really on an island, if you think about it, because their closest opponents is Houston and West Virginia and Cincinnati. That's still a long trip. So, the Big 12, if they do add these teams, hurts these other teams in the East. So if they're going to do that, they need to try to get 4 teams out of the ACC. Like the teams that I said the other day, Pitt, Louisville, maybe a Virginia Tech if you can, or maybe an NC State or Syracuse. I know Syracuse, their football is not great, but I think there's money to be made there with the built-in rivalries.
So
I think you could get Georgia Tech.
Georgia Tech too, yeah.
On that note, I heard an interview just the other day with the athletic director of Baylor, Mr. Mack Rhodes. Brilliant dude. and he actually was talking about expansion in the East, and he was saying that that is definitely something that has been in conversations that he's had with the new commissioner and with other athletic directors about how, we can't just overload everything on the West, because they asked him about the merger idea with the Pac-12, and he said that was never something he was in favor of because he doesn't want to just overload on the West Coast. And why would you? But he said, more importantly, there's a lot of talk about let's see what happens in the East, and we need to be ready to go East. And he talked about West Virginia and UCF specifically, and said that they need more over there. So just so you know, that is not something that we're the only ones talking about. And some of the leadership in the Big 12 is talking about that. So
check out this comment right here. I just read this. I actually think it's genius. Eric Blomquist, I'm hoping I'm saying that correctly. Thank you for the $5 donation. Says, if the Big 12 brings on 4 more teams, don't you think they should be more willing to work with OU and Texas to leave early? Seems dumb if not. I would say yes. If they do bring in 4 more teams, that's going to hurt less. Rip the Band-Aid off, get it done sooner rather than later. The overlap is less awkward. Not sure about the money situation, but it makes sense in theory. What do y'all think about it?
The SEC don't want Texas and Oklahoma early.
I think what we've seen so far.
I think they're going to because the commissioner mentioned that in one of the interviews that he had, that he was going to talk or speak to them about that.
And that was one of the points I was going to make there, is that I think Bob Bowlesby has just been saving face and saying, I'm not going to negotiate with this right now. I'm not going to do it. Mainly saving it for the next commissioner. And so I think when he takes over August 1st, I think shortly after that, we might be hearing about OU and Texas leaving early.
Yeah. Well, because think about it. You're not really gaining anything by them staying. And if they pay the money, you're making money off of them. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I would 100% agree with that.
There's only one thing you do gain by getting at least one more year. Well, this year we'll have it, and I don't know about 24, but the one thing you gain is you beat them up. And so, the more you beat up OU, the more you beat up UT. I mean, it made Baylor look brilliant last year, Oklahoma State as well, where we both beat UT and OU. And so, because they still get a lot of – you've seen it every year, preseason, UT, top 10. Why? They suck, but they get a top 10 rank every single preseason. So then
I just had some breaking news that I want to share.
Go ahead, Kenny. Go ahead.
I just had some breaking news that I want to share. The press Ginger had sent a thing out that said Colorado and Arizona is joining the Big 12, so it's already finalized.
Oh, okay.
Well.
Okay.
Well,
I guess Oregon and Washington are off the table for now, because I from what I was hearing, they were going to push Colorado and Arizona if Oregon and Washington were interested. So I guess they talked it over and they're holding off for now. Quick side note real quick. We have over 260 people watching, right? We are, last check, we are 94 away from 9,000. So anybody in the chat, if you are a college football fan and you're not subscribed to Golden Blue, please hit the subscribe button and we'll get to 9,000 today. Today. Not in 3 days, not tomorrow, not in a week, today. So anybody in the chat, you're a college football fan, you're not a subscriber of Golden Blue Dude, please consider hitting that, especially if you love college football, because that's all we do here. There's an outside possibility that we could actually get to 10,000 by the beginning of the season. We're running out of time, but it's still doable. But if we get to 9,000 today, right now, then that makes the chances of us getting to 10,000 that much more. So great. It would be greatly appreciated. Golden Blue Dude is blowing up as is already, but the sooner we get to 9,000, the sooner we can push towards that 10,000 mark.
Where's that news coming from, by the way?
I'm not seeing that news.
The source on that?
The pressed Ginger. out of the
okay. I
Big
actually
Ten.
Ginger.
I watch his videos actually. He's actually got some good stuff. Yeah, that's actually a YouTube channel that I've watched myself. Sometimes me and him say some similar things because I'll do a video, then I watch his. I'm like, man, that's almost exactly what I said. So
Yeah.
I try.
Yeah, I
to
think
stay
he's
ahead of it.
feeding off of
Sometimes-
you.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think because there's been a few times where he beat me, but there's more times than not that I beat him. So it's and I'm not throwing shade on the dude at all. He's got a great YouTube channel. I actually love it a lot. But
I
and
know.
I'm
I would
okay-
like to
I'm
see
okay
y'all
with that.
two go at it. I like to
Yeah.
see y'all two in a live stream.
Well, I've reached out to him in email. I might reach out to him again later on today, see if we can do a live together. I'm sure if he can see the email that he'll agree to it. We just got to set up a time. So don't worry, guys. I'm on it. That is actually a decent YouTube channel that I watch myself.
Now, one thing I wanted to say real quick about OU and Texas coming to the SEC early. I don't see the SEC wanting them before 2024 at the earliest.
Yeah.
We're not going to share our pie. That's why we haven't pushed for them to come early. Our contract, if they come next year, then our cuts all go down. We're going to lose money.
Yeah. You got to get the new contract in
You
place.
got to
Yeah,
get the
exactly.
new contract. The new contract
Yeah.
won't start until 2024. So
I agree with that. I think it's probably we play them this year. We play them next year. The soonest they'll get there is 24 if the SEC renegotiates an early contract.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think if Texas and Oklahoma say, "Hey, we can be there in 2 years," then ESPN will say, "Okay, we'll go ahead and kick it up."
Yeah.
I want to give a
Well, see, I
quick
wanna-
shout out- hold on. I want to give a quick shout out to Yvette Stowers Foster. She's spreading the word of the Patreon page, and right now is a great time to become a Patreon member because the regular season's coming up. We already have exclusive live shows for the Patreon, which I haven't been able to do in a couple of weeks. But tomorrow, that softball game, that will be a Patreon only live show. You get discounts off the merchandise store, and then in the regular season, we're going to have the Patrons vote to see which football game they want me to live stream, and I will watch whatever game is voted on with my Patreons, just my Patreons, and then the score prediction contest, a chance to win, and it's a guaranteed winner, $20 every single week. Whichever Patreon gets the closest to the score prediction wins $20 every week. And the cool thing is, the higher the Patreon you are, the more guesses you get per week. So if you're a $5 Patreon, you get 5 guesses per week, $10, 10 guesses, and so on and so forth. So regular season, the Patreon page is going to be hopping.
Hey, I also want to give you a big thanks. Yesterday, I got a mug from you.
No. I
What?
thought you said you got mud.
I got the coffee cup, the mug.
Oh, yeah. I knew that was coming. I just didn't know when it was going to come. Whenever you get a chance, get that picture, and I'm going to put you on a video if you're okay with that.
Here's the problem. It got sent to my place in Iowa. I'm in Mexico City right now for a while. I'm not going to be in Iowa for a couple months. But I did want you to know that it was picked up yesterday. I got people grabbing my mail and this and that. And yeah, I did get it. I did see it. It's really cool. I want to thank you. Like I said, once I get back there, I'll get a picture for you and send to you.
Okay, cool.
Here's my
that's
point I
something
want to
that-
make.
Go
If
ahead.
Colorado and Arizona jumps in, that's going to force ACC and SPN back to the table.
Well, it already is because we heard last week. Well, I'm not sure about the SEC, but the ACC and ESPN are definitely back on the table. They want to make sure Notre Dame stays affiliated, and I'm not sure if they'll succeed in drawing in some Big 12 teams, but that's one of the motivations for them renegotiating. They're going to try. I don't know if they'll succeed, but they're definitely going to try.
Man, they'd have to put a lot of money on the table to get some Big 12 teams right now. 'Cause
Yeah.
you got-
Well, if I was
Yeah.
it's all about ESPN, their plan. Because what ESPN wants to do, we all know they want the biggest brands in the SEC, right? But they still want to keep making money off of the ACC. Under the current contract, neither of those things can happen. They can't bump any brands up because the grant of rights, they're trying to figure a way out of it. The only way they can do that is to renegotiate. So if they want to do what they want to do, and a lot of people are saying, well, that's too big of a risk because now you're going to open the door and a lot of teams are going to jump. Who's going to jump? Because all the big brands that would have the flight risk, they're actually bumping up to the SEC, right? Syracuse going to jump? No. Boston College? No. Pitt? No. The only two that I could think that has a flight risk would be Virginia Tech and Miami to the Big Ten. But they could turn around and focus on the Big 12 and hurt Fox that way. If they could fend off the Big Ten and keep Virginia Tech and Miami and hurt – see, this is a back and forth thing between Fox and ESPN. They're trying to figure out what the next – okay, what are they going to do next? Let's try to be a move ahead of them. Now, whether it actually happens, I don't know. But this is a game of chess, and they're trying to think 2 moves ahead to figure out how to counter what the other person's about to do.
I think Oregon is the school right now that's the biggest one in play.
I would agree with that.
Because Oregon has to make a decision before Notre Dame, before any of the others. They're the next domino that has to fall.
Well, I can see Clemson and North Carolina pairing up with Oregon and Washington and going to the SEC. That's what I can see.
No, the SEC won't go to Washington.
No.
We're going to stay geographically as close as we can.
They'll take the 4 teams out of the 4 best teams out of the ACC before they do that.
But why would the SEC take anybody that's going to bring less than $100 million a year? And the SEC is in a great spot. They got no reason to push themselves to take a $60 million Oregon or a $50 million Washington. Or even honestly, I mean, Florida State and Clemson are great and all, but they're not $100 million right now. Clemson might be, but beyond Clemson and Florida State, I don't see the SEC doing anything. But here's the bigger deal I got for you, Golden Blue. ESPN right now, if nothing changes, they're going to make a buttload of money off the ACC. So their motivation to add more money would have to be to add big programs. But the problem is you can't raid from the Big 12 because no matter what, grant of rights are one side of the Big 12, but then there's just the contract of being in the conference. If you leave the conference at any point at any time, you are on the hook for $80 million. Not the TV contract, that's additional. This is just to leave the conference. So you're talking about the ACC offering enough money for Oklahoma State, for example, to pay out $80 million to go join the ACC. That contract has got to be big. And I don't see ESPN saying, oh, let's take a loss on Syracuse and Wake and Duke and everybody else so we can go get Oklahoma State. No, that ain't going to happen. Or we could go get Oregon or Washington. Well, they might want them, but I don't see ESPN going back for anything other than Notre Dame. And Notre Dame is already put out all the word, hey, we want to be independent. So I think that's a big reach. I think,
if they can get to that $75 million payout.
Well, I don't think that's a problem. I think they'll get somebody, NBC or CBS or somebody, to pay it. I don't think ESPN will pay it. But just because they get their independent contract renewed doesn't mean they stop working with the ACC. Jeff mentioned this a couple of days ago. If NBC or Fox or somebody else takes that independent contract, great. But they're still going to schedule with the ACC. And so why would ESPN? ESPN has nothing to lose with just staying where they are.
Here's why ESPN will do this, okay? And this is the only reason it makes sense. The only way ESPN is negotiating with the ACC is they're going to change the grant of rights from 2036 to at least 2029 at the latest.
I've actually heard that. Yeah.
Okay, so now they're going to save, 7 years. And keep in mind, when you sign a contract, every year that contract goes up and up and up.
Right,
so
it's
all back heavy. So they're going to save money in the long run by cutting it by 7 years. Plus, they're going to save money because now the grant of rights are up. They're going to be able to pull a North Carolina, a Clemson to the SEC. Now, the SEC will cut their payout to get those teams only to cause a playoff with just the Big Ten. That way they keep all the money from the playoff will make up the difference from what they lose per team. Does that make sense?
That yeah, it does.
Now, that's the only way to me it makes sense. And to the people that I've talked to, that's the only reason that makes sense to any of them.
Right.
Well, I don't know, man. I think you got a lot of risk from an ESPN point of view to do that. But
I mean, there's arguments on both sides of the aisle, but the bottom line is, reported from multiple news outlets, it's a fact that ESPN and the ACC are renegotiating. Now, the question is, does it happen, and what does it look like? So we're not asking a question, are they going to, and here's why they should, and here's why they shouldn't. It's they are, and here's why they should and why they shouldn't. Whether it actually happens, I don't know. But the fact remains, they are renegotiating right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be like the Big 12 and the Pac-12 negotiating a merger. You know, it might just
it might fall through.
You know, it could.
Yeah. Now, I think I did hear somebody say that they might negotiate and settle on a trigger contract that would take effect if certain members are added to the ACC. Right. Then there's a guaranteed new contract with ESPN. And then the ACC can take that contract in hand and go and entice people or try to. I could see that, but yeah, if I'm ESPN, I'm liking where we are. Other thing is, you don't want to take the risk of collapsing down the ACC and losing all that inventory. Yes, you build a bigger brand in the SEC and you add some better programs, but now all you got is the SEC. I think they want to have that inventory. You know, they do have the American, but yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting thought. But.
Yeah, and I think it was Joey that was having this conversation earlier, or somebody brought it up where, you know, the negotiations of a Big 12, Pac-12 merger fell through. And according to the new commissioner, that wasn't really on the board because they didn't want to make it too West heavy. So to me, does that mean that the Big 12 has been thinking about adding to the East side this whole time, and that's why they turned down the merger?
Oh, definitely.
I agree. I don't know if it means that, or if it means they don't want to take like all these other Pac-12 programs, such as Cal, Oregon State, Washington State. You know, maybe it means they don't want to take them. You know, maybe they'll take an Arizona and a Colorado. Maybe they'll take an Oregon and a Washington. Oregon and Washington, but they're not going to take all these other schools. Maybe that's what they meant by it.
Yeah. But if they don't
want to water down their
I was actually thinking that, but then the new commissioner himself said the reason that they didn't do it is because he didn't want to be too West heavy. He didn't mention, you know, these brands weren't as valuable or whatever. He specifically said because he didn't want to be too West heavy. That's what makes me ponder. Are they thinking about the East as well?
There was a point.
Yeah, I think they are thinking about us because we're a big brand in their conference, and they don't want to take risk of losing us.
There was a point that the new commissioner made over and over on his first day at media days, and that was we're not going to do anything that is dilutive to the conference. We're only going to be additive. And so yes, I agree with what you're saying. He didn't want to be too West heavy. He only wanted to be selective, only the stuff that adds value or keeps our value, but adds inventory. But yeah, taking the whole Pac-12 made no sense for anybody outside of Oregon State.
And getting to Denver and the Phoenix market,
stupid. Horrible.
Getting to Denver and the Phoenix market doesn't dilute the Big 12. It adds to it, and it don't add to it, but it don't change the numbers most likely.
Well,
adding it won't change it. Now adding Oregon and Washington would add to it.
Correct.
Let me ask Tim this. We have a Pac-12 fan. Well, currently Pac-12 fan, future Big Ten fan perspective. What do you think about Oregon and Washington to the Big 12? Would that be in their best interest, or Do you think they have a chance of getting to the Big Ten, and should they hold out if they do?
Oh, you're muted, buddy.
We
You're
can't
on
hear
mute,
you.
Tim.
He's not muted, but his mic might not be plugged in.
Yeah, no, my mic was on mute. Is that better?
There you go. There you go.
Financially, clearly, it makes sense to go to the Big Ten, but you're playing a bit of a risk being left behind. But again, it's not going to be the popular. It's not going to be the popular take on this. But there's a reason why USC jumped to go when they did. It's because it doesn't. I mean, it just seems like ESPN and Fox are going to outpace everybody else. You know, if you're not in SEC, if you're not in the Big Ten, you're looking at about a $50 million a year deficit.
Yes, but the governor of California is not wanting to let go.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. Talk about
Now
some-
he has no,
Sorry,
he
guys,
has no
teenagers,
thing
what do you
in
do?
USC, though.
What do you do? Sorry about that.
No, you're good.
Hey,
As far as the governor of California, he has no pull when it comes to USC because they're a private institution.
Zero.
But my thing is, could he block UCLA and screw up the partnership? And UCLA would have to take like a Stanford, because Stanford's a private institution as well.
Yeah.
sorry, guys. I totally lost my train of thought when my teenager
That's
walks
all
in
right.
blasting his music. Hey, I think that the problem's going to be. Did you see what I mean? I put in the chat. I show you guys. You really want to follow John Wilner. I'm sure you're aware of him. He's
Yeah.
basically the guy that broke the SC and UCLA to the Big Ten story.
Yeah.
He just really tapped in with the Pac-12, and he's saying that he just doesn't see. I wish I could find the actual tweet, but he doesn't see certain teams hopping to the Big 12 without the rest, of the guys. So I don't think it's gonna be piecemeal. It's gonna be either it's gonna be like 4 or 5 of them go. I don't. He doesn't see 2 people jumping and leaving the other ones behind.
So it's not going to be a wave. It's going to be a whole entire lump.
I just think so. I just see it as unfair. I mean, it's unfair. It's a monopoly that the Big Ten and the SEC have right now. And I'm just wondering how everyone else is going to make it fair, because there are programs that are a hell of a lot better than UCLA and have been recently a hell of a lot better than USC that are going to be left out of this thing.
Yeah.
And it just comes down to TVs. It comes down to, again, bean counters in Boston or Massachusetts deciding what's going to happen on West Coast football. That's what I mean. That's what's really pissing me off.
Yeah.
Just stay in their own business. They don't need to know. They don't have to get involved here. But unfortunately, it is a business, right? That's where we get lost.
It's a multi-million-dollar billion.
We don't pull the trigger on any of these decisions that they make. It is what it is. We just have to live with the consequences. And the thing that really sucks is, like, the team that you're a fan of, USC, Jeff Grimm, Alabama, the bigger brands, you guys are fine. It's no big deal. You're good to go. But the medium brands, not really the smaller brands, but like the medium brands, like your West Virginias, your Baylors, I'd put an NC State in there, maybe Iowa State, Oklahoma State, Kansas State. Those are the teams that are really stressed out right now, and they shouldn't be, because they do have good brands. They're just not like the biggest brands. But we're having to worry just like a Memphis brand has to worry. Like, we're being lumped into that group because we're not in the SEC, we're not in the Big Ten, and there's no guarantee that would even happen. So all these mid-tier brands that are really good brands are still having to stress because they know eventually it could end up being just the SEC and the Big Ten. And if you're not in, then you might be playing for a lower class national championship, just like the FCS does right now. And that's no trash talk to the FCS. They have some good programs down there, but I mean, who really watches that level of college football,
Yeah. No, we watch high school football in Texas.
Right.
But
I've said for a while, I've made videos on this before conference realignment even happened, that I think that the group of 5 should have broke off a long time ago. Not necessarily break off and not play the Power 5, like keep the scheduling and all that stuff, just like, they schedule the FCS, all the Power 5 and the Group 5 schedule the FCS, but they should have broke off and had their own playoffs and national championship, because what is the point of playing football at a Group of 5 school if you have literally a 0% chance of not just winning a national championship, of even playing for one or playing in the playoffs? And I know Cincinnati turned that 0% into like a 2% chance because they finally got there. But if we're talking reality, if you're playing football for a Utah State or a Nevada, Boise State, great brand, never going to make the playoffs though. What's the point?
There's one reason I would say that's not a good idea, and that is there's a school called University of Mary Hardin Baylor, and they're, I think, what is it, Division III or whatever football. They went all the way and won the national championship in an actual real playoff system in football. They won the national championship, and then they self-reported something that was the nothing burger, and the NCAA made them vacate their national championship and brought the hammer down. So the only reason I would say the G5 shouldn't do that is because the NCAA loves to destroy nobodies, and they won't touch these big blue blood Power 5 programs. But I mean, if you go look at the violation, I'll just tell you real fast. The violation was the coach had a 15-year-old car that was sitting in his driveway, and he let one of the players borrow the car to go catch a ride to the airport to visit his mother who had cancer. And they said that was a violation. And they made them vacate the wins and vacate their national championship. So that's the reason I think the G5 wouldn't do what you're saying. Otherwise, if they could break away from the NCAA, then I would say go for it. But
well, the only pushback that I would have on that is I think a group of 5 playoff and national championship would make ESPN more money than the lower division. So I think they'd probably be a little more. I mean, they'd probably still be a stickler for the group of 5, but not to that level. Like it would have to be more egregious for them to pull a national championship, and I think it would be more recognized. I think it would, because I had, and no disrespect to this team, but I had no idea who that team was, that they won a national championship. Now, even though the group of 5 would be one level down, I still think we would all be aware of who the national champion of that particular division of college football would be. Like it would actually be relevant, if that makes any sense. Quick update on the channel, by the way. Now we are 84 subscribers away from 9,000. So we've had some people hit the subscribe button. The chat's still over 200. So anybody not in the chat that hasn't subscribed, help us get to 9,000 today. We want to get there today.
Well, see, here's one thing that I can't understand is.
Hold on, Kenny.
Go ahead.
Let me break in for just a second because we have over 200 in here today. It's a great show. So I think what we're going to do, go ahead and give away at the end of the show today, before we log off, we're going to give away a coffee mug from our merchandise store. And if you have not been to our merchandise store lately, head over there because we lowered prices. We had to increase prices for a while because of everything was kind of in flux about prices. The prices were going up, prices were going down.
Inflation.
So now we've got to stabilize now, so we know what prices can be. Our prices are really good over there. Be sure and head over there and check out our merchandise store. We're gonna give away a coffee mug. This is a water bottle from the merchandise store. They're really nice. I don't know if you can see it or not. This one's actually golden blue dude.
And Jeff got his from Patreon page. He just he's not at that address. I can't wait for him to see it. I think it's good looking.
If you remember Patreon, we have different levels of Patreon. According to what level you join, you can get free stuff from there. So great way to get you a t-shirt, a coffee mug, stuff like that. So
yeah, anybody in the chat hasn't hit the thumbs up, please. That's what helps grow these videos. It's not a pat on the back or anything like that. It helps the video hit the YouTube algorithm, gets it suggested more and a bigger audience. And I can tell people have been hitting the like button because we've had a pretty big audience today. So shout out to everybody watching. We appreciate you. That does not go unrecognized. This has been a great show so far. So what we're hearing is that Arizona and Colorado to the Big 12. I mean, is that official yet, or is that still just being talked about?
I just went and looked, and nobody's reporting it yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Still,
And I saw in the comments that Depressed Ginger was going by that guy on Twitter. That's I mean, I'm not going to say he's out there, but he reports a lot of rumors. Sometimes they happen, sometimes they don't, and that's fine. That's what he does. I'm not talking down on the dude. I'm just saying that doesn't necessarily mean that happened.
Right, makes it legit.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So my question is what do the Big 12 fans think about Colorado coming back after what they did? I mean, what are those feelings like?
Well, West Virginia wasn't in the Big 12 bunch. We were new after that, so I have no idea. But we do have Shooter, who's a Baylor fan, who was a Big 12 member back whenever Colorado left the Big 12 for the Pac-12.
Yeah.
Have you talked to anybody about this? If so, can you get a feel from the fan base as how they feel about it?
Most everybody is not real excited about having Colorado back. I mean, what they did was kind of not so awesome.
Yeah.
But, I mean, they were definitely looking out for themselves. They thought the Big 12 was collapsing and they wanted to get out as fast as they could.
Yep.
Didn't work out for them very well, which we're all happy about. But then now they're coming back. It is what it is. I mean, you take them just because, they give you a lot of Denver market and Colorado market. There's history, there is some culture, history there, some rivalries. Although Nebraska's gone now, so that was a big game, was Colorado, Nebraska. But
that raises another thing. Before I forget, I wanted to ask you about this. So the Big 12, they were rated the first go around. Colorado and Nebraska and Missouri and Texas A&M left. Yeah. Everybody thought the Big 12 was left for dead and they would fizzle out, and they get Texas or TCU and West Virginia. That helped somewhat. And then the recent go around, they lost Texas and Oklahoma. Once again, Big 12's dead. Those were your blue bloods, not going to survive. Big 12 goes out and gets BYU, Houston, Cincinnati, and UCF. They're surviving. Could the Pac-12 do the same thing? Could they shock people and pull some bigger moves and stay relevant? Because the Big 12 did it, and everybody was counting out the Big 12 back then. Right now, everybody's counting out the Pac-12. Could they pull off what the Big 12 pulled off?
I think they could.
No, because
and the reason
I don't think
they
can.
The reason, Joey, I say they can is, again, I love the Big 12, but you have no blue bloods. You have no power. The Pac-12 has Oregon, has Washington, has Stanford. They have teams that matter. They have teams who've won national championships in the last 30 years. They have teams who played in national championship games in the last 10 years. Who did the Big 12 have? Even with BYU.
Okay.
BYU won a national championship, in 84? So now we're going back almost 40 years.
That's a solid take.
This team
That's solid.
I know this team that I'm getting ready to mention don't have very big stands or market, but their proof is with the FCS championships. Why not North Dakota?
Numbers of TV. This is all about not being a great program or great fans. Because again, UCLA and USC got with the first pick. I mean, I'm the first to admit I'm a huge USC fan. Been USC fan 30 plus years. We don't have great fans and loyal fans. We don't have a great program, as of last year. It's not about how great your program is. It's what can you bring to a conference. And so that is a great example of, again, they're like an Oregon State, Washington State. I haven't seen anybody do as much with so little as those programs. And it's unfortunately not fair that that's not rewarded on a larger scale.
Because the key part of what you just said is with so much little. Even though they've done a lot with so much little, it's still, they have so much little. So what do they bring? So much little. They make the most out of it, but they don't bring enough value.
They go to Kinnick Stadium and beat Iowa. Yeah.
The
problem, if we look at something
State.
here,
Same with Boise State.
let's look at let's look at this, because everybody talks about Oregon and stuff, and okay, they're a great program. There's no doubt about it. But this is a stat right here that really has me. So Oregon, since 1980, is 315 and 190. They won 315 and lost 190. West Virginia has won 318 and lost 183. Okay, they both played for 2 national championships in that amount of time too. Oregon's played for 2, West Virginia's played for 2. Well, what are we talking about? Oregon's a blue blood, and they're where's that coming from?
Well, I wouldn't use the term blue blood, but I would use the term national fan base. They do have a national appeal. I even find myself watching an Oregon game, as long as they're not playing like Oregon's. Well, I watched the Civil War. Oregon State. Well, they changed that because of the connotations. Oregon State. That's a great game. In fact, a couple years ago in 2020, I think I predicted the upset because I knew Oregon didn't have a good run defense, and Oregon State had an excellent running game. So Oregon has I think what he meant by blue brand is they have the national appeal, and West Virginia has the biggest fan base in the new Big 12, but our fan base compared to Oregon's fan base, it's not as big. It's just not.
Right. I understand
also
that.
Look at the money. Look at the money. Phil Knight will drop into Oregon. And I'm not saying that, West Virginia's poor by any means. It don't have any boosters, but that Nike money makes a big difference also.
Yeah.
Well, now money is the problem though with the Pac-12 is that over the past 6, 7, 8 years, the Pac-12 revenues and distributions have been they're not going the right way. I mean, you're talking about big places like San Francisco Bay Area, LA, all those big markets. You should be easily the third or even the second best in money, but unfortunately, they've been behind the Big 12 in payouts, and this is why USC and UCLA are gone, because they're going to get big money in the Big Ten. But that's the problem with the Pac-12 trying to reload and stay effective is, yeah, you could do that, but even if you reloaded with San Diego State and Fresno State and SMU, the Big 12 has good money because we have crazy football geography. I mean, everybody in the Big 12 states loves football. We breathe it, and we draw a ton of eyeballs. And so we can easily poach an Arizona away, a Utah or Colorado away, because we are going to have more money. Unfortunately for the Pac-12, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense that Waco, Texas would be a bigger draw than Portland, Oregon. Well, yeah. It's not more than Portland, Oregon, but it is a bigger draw than what we're getting in Tucson. And so all I'm just saying is that's the problem, is the money. The TV money is the problem with the Pac-12 reloading and staying effective. And
that was a good point right there that a lot of people are not looking at, is the Pac-12 as a whole, they don't have very many loyal football fans. And Oregon is kind of the team that pops out. Their fans are loyal. Here's a Washington fan, Sergeant Pickles 13. Thank you for the $2 donation. He says, I'm a UW fan, Washington. We're not blue bloods, but are tier 2. I would agree with that. And I think for a while they were considered a blue blood because before the past, 15, 20 years, Washington was really good. Yes, really, really good. Like national contender.
Don James, national championship, 1990. Don James and some of the defenses they had at
didn't they have a Heisman Trophy finalist in that too?
Warren
Moon came from Washington.
That's going way back. That's
way back. Yeah.
So
there's a ton of great quarterbacks.
Like, I mean, really, really recent history. I had them as a blue blood.
Well, I'm not sure. I don't think. I'm gonna get yelled at, but I don't. To me, the blue bloods are pretty small group. You know what I mean? I mean, really think it's like You just start at the top: Alabama, Notre Dame, right? Michigan, Oklahoma, USC. Oh my God, I'm leaving someone out. Ohio State. You know, it's a really small group because otherwise, again, it's not that they're the best programs forever. Like let's say, Ohio State, USC, and Michigan haven't exactly been tearing up with national championships, right? Of recently, but it's a blue blood because the definition comes back from British aristocracy or exactly where it is. But it's the people that not necessarily are rich now and have a lot now, but they have that family name that carries on through the centuries. So it's not about being the best teams over the last 80 years. It's who were the guys, who were the big shots at the beginning of this thing that really carried the sport. Those are the blue bloods in my definition.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And this comment, let me get to this super chat real quick because it kind of feeds into this. John Waffle, HGP, thank you for the $4.99 donation. Says the reason why Oregon is valuable is because of one of their alums. Oregon was garbage before that. I 100% agree, and that's why I actually still have Washington above Oregon. A lot of people argue, Oregon has way more money than Washington. I would consider them, and right now because of their alums, they might be. But overall, historically, I think Washington has been a better program than Oregon. Maybe not blue blood because of the reasons that you mentioned, Tim, but historically, I have Washington a notch above Oregon.
Yeah,
when it comes to their
under
brand.
the Mike Leach era.
That's Washington
Mike
State.
Leach was U State.
Yeah.
But Chris Peterson had Washington turning around until he left.
Yeah, I was going to go there. Washington was, again, abruptly, Pickles just talked about it inside the chat. Peterson had it rolling. I mean, in 2016, they're a legit team. And there has to be something to it. I mean, I pray for his family. The only thing I can think of a coach's family like that is something happened. I know he's had problems, I believe, with his son for years. But I mean, I just think that he's like, look, man, I'm just going to walk away. I hats off to him. Family comes first. But I mean, the Pac-12 would not be in the situation it is one if USC didn't have their head up their ass and Swan gave Helton that ridiculous extension. They got a proper coach in there. And two, if Washington hadn't missed on Jimmy Lake. I love my Duck fans. My closest friends here on YouTube are Duck fans. But I'm going to say this. The Ducks have had everything. Nothing's really happened to Ducks. And no NCAA probation, no horrible AD, no really bad things going on, no coaches just retiring. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They've had the run and they've had the benefit of Washington, UCLA, and USC being in the toilet.
Yep.
And again, I'll be blown with my Duck friends. What have you done with all of that? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, really.
Whereas Washington's been solid and usually is solid, but they just like anyone. I said this like about a week ago here on your channel. You guys are one. I'm not talking about Alabama again. Don't throw those top people out of the way. They're going to do fine. I'm talking about you guys out there that have your 9-3 seasons, 10-2 seasons, and you got a little roll going. Lots of teams like that. You're one coaching change away from all of a sudden going back to mediocrity. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
that's what I was about to say. The worst thing that's happened to Oregon was this past year when Mario Cristobal went to Miami. That's the worst thing that's happened to them over the past 20 years, in my opinion. John Waffle, HC, thank you for the $4.99 donation. He says, if only Mark Cuban stayed at Pitt and David Tepper donated more. And then he sends another one. This time, $1.99 donation says, Washington is what Pitt should be. That actually makes sense, to be honest with you. I hate Pitt with a passion, but Pitt back in the day was brutal. They were a beast. Now, I've been fortunate as a West Virginia fan. I was born in the exact right era, not counting 2007 because that loss was worse than anything imaginable. But during my lifetime, West Virginia in the backyard brawl is 18-9 against Pitt with 2 ties. And overall, Pitt has a 21-game lead on West Virginia. So that, my point is Pitt used to be a dominating force, and somewhere along the lines, people started to not care and stopped, donating money to Pitt. So I actually agree with this. They have some people that are just holding out on Pitt. If they would donate like they're supposed to, I think Pitt could be one of those programs to watch out for. I mean, look at last year; they had a really good season. I just don't think that's sustainable because they don't have the donors to sustain it.
With all due respect,
is anybody still alive that's a Pitt fan that's seen 2 national championships?
No, but 76 happened, and with all due respect to Tony Dorsett, you got a great point. That's what I would say about it. I would say that to be a blue blood, you're right. I kind of pigeonholed that definition, but man, you've had to have done something in the last like 70 years as well. I mean, aren't all those Pitt championships? We could bring Princeton into the conversation if we want and call them a blue blood. I'm talking about there has to be some level of sustainability, and I'm not putting down Pitt again. Tony Dorsett's one of the best running backs I've ever seen, and that they won what 76 or 75? I don't know.
76.
I can't remember. 76.
A prime example, a very big blue blood that hasn't done nothing for years, and that's Stanford.
Well,
no, the early part of the last decade,
Yeah.
Stanford was rolling. I mean, they
Jim
were.
Harbaugh had Stanford humming.
Well, and Shaw, the early Shaw period
Early
was
Shaw years, yeah.
that
Why he's
they were
making $9
dominant.
million and it's going down the toilet.
yeah,
See, it's
those are
Nebraska
really-
you got to talk about. Nebraska has not done anything since, 95, 96?
Yeah, there you go. Well, Nebraska's a good example. Yeah, I mean, they were as long as you can get in the 90s.
I think UT is the perfect example of a blue blood that is not doing well. But what really, Tim, what marks it for me is you could have these terrible, terrible runs and still recruit. That to me is a blue blood. I mean, even USC has had some not so great runs, but still pull some really good recruits. I mean, it's not not great, but Pitt, that's the thing. Pitt goes through a slump and no recruiting, and it's gone. Baylor's the same way. If we go through a bad run, we're going to lose all our recruiting. But that's a blue blood. A blue blood is somebody that can have 5-10 years of bad plays or bad seasons and still pull a top 25, a top 10 recruiting class. That's a blue blood.
The thing about USC, and here's the difference. I always saw on Mark Rogers' show. I always say this: when I think of Ohio State, I think as consistency. Like you're up here all the time. You know what I mean? But with Ohio State, it's just they never really. Sorry, Buckeyes in the group. You guys, if you're really honest enough, you're going to say, yeah, okay, that's true. They just never have that to get over the top, right? If it was in the 70s, losing to John McKay and Robinson and the Rose Bowl, giving up a national championship. If it's recently, if it's been like in the playoffs recently, when you get to the playoffs, you just can't, except for when Meyer was there in 2015, I don't know if I forget, whatever, they win the national championship, but you don't get over that hump, but you're always freaking there. Then there's teams like Notre Dame and USC and Alabama, and when we're hot, we're shit hot, and we're running a goddamn sport, and we're like way at the top. Trojans in the 70s and the 2000s, we could be stopped, but we were absolute horrible in the 90s. Absolutely trash the last 5 years. It's just hot and cold with some teams, but when we are hot, we take to the next level. With Ohio State, to me, it always seems like you guys are always just one of those teams, but you're always one of those teams, if you know what I mean. So go on, hate on me if you want, but be honest with yourselves.
Well, it does make
I'm
sense.
going to
Let
drop
me
me.
get
I'm going
to
to
these.
drop
Let
me.
me get to these super chats real quick, guys. Hold on. John Waffle H2P $1.99 donation. He says our AD wants to focus on football more, and that is a fact. I've seen articles on your AD, and it does seem like Pitt is shifting, and you can see the results from last year. And then Vanity Rose, thank you for the $5 donation, says Nebraska hasn't been the same since Miami made them bite down on a pillow in that forgot about that. In that 2001 season Rose Bowl. Yep, that's a fact. We all talk about how dominating that 2001 Miami team was, but we forgot, that was around the time that they actually ended Nebraska as far as their dominance in college football. J-Dub,
wasn't that also the era of Chip Kelly?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I'm going to drop because you have some people wanting to come in. I'm going to drop down to the bottom, and I'll come back in at the end so we can do the coffee mug giveaway.
Okay.
But I will say this. For what John Waffle said about Pitt's athletic director, she's a rock star, just like Linda Livingstone is at Baylor. She's doing a fantastic job. So, okay, I'm going to drop down and let you get somebody else in here, and I'll come back at the end.
I got you. J-Dub, what's going on, buddy?
Hey, the kings of the never getting it done is Michigan. They have one national title and one shared national title in the AP era, which started in
and their well of resources is bottomless, basically.
In 1936, and they have a big endowment, all sorts of support. They're the winningest program of all time, and they don't got any hardware to show for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Keyword
It's not that they're
development.
unsuccessful. It's just they can't compete at the highest level on a consistent basis. Michigan got to the playoffs last year, right? Who predicted that? Did anybody at the beginning of the 2021 college football season predict that Michigan was going to make the playoffs? No. Why? Because we're used to them not being able to do it. So it was an actual surprise. We weren't expecting it. It surprised us. Wow, Michigan actually got to the playoffs this year.
I have to
But
tell you
if they
something
had
about-
a coach
I have to
that
say
could
something about
develop
Pitt.
players, if they had a coach that could develop players, they would be there at the spotlight and
I
be
would
there
agree.
consistently.
You know, I think there's
I have
something
to
else.
say something
too,
about Pitt.
between-
I
go
think
ahead.
1981, I believe, Hugh Green, the defensive lineman, was robbed out of the Heisman Trophy. He was the best player in college football that year. And as far as Tony Dorsett, not Dorset, Dorsett. He was Tony Dorsett for 4 years. And then as soon as he wins the Heisman, he comes out and says, no, it's Dorsett. He tells everybody that after 4 years of being Dorsett. So in one of the great all-time slams ever, the next year they ask Earl Campbell if he wants to be Earl Campbell, and he said, no, it's Campbell.
You know, I think if you win some Super Bowls as a running back for the Cowboys, you can call yourself whatever the hell you want to call yourself.
Well, I'm not taking anything away from his
Yeah.
talent. I'm not taking anything away from his talent. I'm just saying, in 30 years before Twitter or the social media thing, the Dorsett Campbell thing was as close as you came to.
I have a question.
Did time just slow down for everybody else, or just me?
What does that have to do with the price of tea in China? Like,
Hold on. Well, Jeff, I want to jump in because yesterday I was completely to blame for that absolute mess. In my opinion, when I'm watching these shows, I always value Jeff's input. Jeff, you've got a unique input on all this stuff. You got a great perspective. You're the kind of person that makes these communities. So I wanted to tell you that whatever went down yesterday, I'm going to take the blame for it because I kind of came at you because here's one thing. As fans, we all have our blind spots. And I'm not saying you're wrong or I'm right. I'm saying sometimes it got to a point yesterday, though, that I think I took it too far. I don't think I should have pushed it. And, man to man, I do apologize for the way I talked to you yesterday. Because
No apology needed, sir. It is what it is. Everybody
That's
gets fired up.
admirable.
Everybody gets fired up. That's what college football is all about.
Exactly.
All I'm saying,
that's why I love this channel too, because of
here's
all
the
the different
perspective. Here's the
personalities.
perspective I bring. If there's people in the chat or in the StreamYard who don't know it, what I do for a living is I'm a professional photographer, and I have been on the sidelines since 1992 at Iowa and Iowa State home games. So I've seen the Big 8, the Big 12, the Big 10, and then non-conference, whoever would stumble into the state, but I mean, as far as conferences go, those three this will be year 31 for me. So I've seen just a little bit of college football. So I like to think if I have to say something, you may disagree with me, but don't tell me that I don't know what I'm talking about. You can tell me you do. You can think my opinion's full of shit. I don't have a problem with that.
You need
Yeah, man. I'm with you. Again, I wanted to clear that up because I think the one thing I do love about there's a lot of great shows, a lot of good content on these channels, but the community that you have here, Golden Blue Dude, and the community that Mark Rogers has, in my opinion, this is just my opinion again. It's really some really great fans that really police them. I mean, I mod these boards. You guys really police yourselves. No one really goes at each other too hard, and I hope it stays that way. Is all I'm going to say. And so for me, taking away from this Shangri-La, this Camelot, for me going there, I want to give you my dude, I'm sorry moment.
That is what's cool about this, because they do go back and forth, but they also don't want to hurt the channel, so they don't take it to the extent of possibly hurting the channel and getting a stream taken down or anything like that. So
nobody wants that.
We have an intelligent community, and I appreciate them.
Hey,
nobody wants that, But we're all a bunch of passionate mad scientists in our lab, and every now and then one of the test tubes is going to boil over. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just going to happen, and you
Yeah.
just live with it. You just live with it and move on and say those things happen.
So,
Shooter, what did you want to say, buddy?
yeah, real quick, going back to that Michigan thing, I think one of the things that kind of has hurt Michigan, and you could throw Ohio State in there too, compared to the SEC, is that a lot of the Michigan competitive offenses are real similar. And what's really helped Alabama and Georgia the past few years is that there's been this wild mix of offenses in the SEC where you got spread stuff, you got Mike Leach with the air raid, you got power runs. And so the defense for Alabama, the defense for Georgia, they can't just go out there and, oh, here comes another power run play. Oh, here comes I formation again. And I think that's actually something that's a strength of the SEC and a weakness of the Michigan and Ohio State is they get into the playoffs and suddenly they're faced with something in Alabama they've never seen before.
Well, I saw in the chat where I forget who it was, but they were calling Michigan boring. 100% agree. Even when they made the playoffs last year, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because they're too run heavy or whatever. They are putting out a boring product. And they finally broke through and had success last year. I think they stretched the field a little more than what they usually did and hit some big plays. But in general, over the past 10, 20 years, Michigan football has been boring. And I'm not trying to dog on Michigan fans or make them feel bad or anything like that because you've had some success during that stretch. But overall, the product that Michigan has put out there has been boring. I mean, it just has been. I don't know how else to word it.
The
It
problem
could
with
also
Michigan
be because
football
of
is they
it could
keep
also
playing
be
the same style.
Yeah,
it could also
Alabama,
be too promoting it.
promoting it. Yeah.
Well, I know a guy here in town whose wife is an Arkansas grad, and they went down to the Arkansas-Alabama game in Tuscaloosa last year, and I had to hear all about I'm going to Bryant-Denny, and he knows I'm an alum, so that just rubbing it in. They ended up seeing a great game, a game that was decided not till the very end on a recovered onside kick. And he came back, and he said that's the first SEC game he'd seen in person in something like 15 years. They'd gone to Fayetteville for homecoming sometime in the late 2000s, but he is a season ticket holder at Kinnick for the Hawkeyes. And he just came back and he said, oh my God, the speed is at an entirely different level.
Yep.
On the lines, at the skill positions, everywhere on the field, the speed is just unbelievable. And that was, he was watching Alabama, Arkansas. Well, I said, well, okay, you just happen to see one of the best teams in the country and one that was rising. But as a general rule, yeah, that's what, when you see the Big Ten play the SEC, what happens? I mean, look at what Georgia pounded Michigan. Why? Because every time Michigan tried to do something, Georgia guys were already standing there.
Yeah,
Exactly.
The
They had
problem-
a really fast defense. All right, here's what I want to do, guys. I have to actually leave here in a few minutes to pick up my kid from their friend's house. So what I want to do is, number one, I haven't heard from Captain Kenneth that much, so I want to give him a chance real quick, and then we'll do our last word. What's going on, buddy?
Not too much. I had a slight input on the whole Ohio State Michigan situation, but it would take longer to really get my point across. But so I'll just tune in next time.
All right, man. Hey, well, do you want to give a last word then?
No, I'm good. I'm good, man.
All right, man.
No,
We'll get
I
to you
will
next
say
time.
this. I will say this as a last word. My man, my USC man. No, you didn't go too far. You didn't go too far. You went just far enough. That was just great. It's nobody saying anything bad about Nick Saban or anything like that. The thing is, you got to be a special kind of crazy to think that you have to give the bag. It's not about being righteous or being anything. Of course, Saban is bag because you have to. It's just the way it works. It's just the way it works. So
I would agree with
is
that. Well, I appreciate you, buddy. Thank you. J-Dub, this is perfect because he addressed what got you kicked off yesterday. And so I'm going to bounce to you. I know you weren't too happy about that.
I put that to rest with the Mark Rogers stream.
Okay.
For those of you who weren't in there, look, I've seen it happen, man. I personally witnessed Cornelius Bennett earn All-American status and go from driving an F-150 that you could spit your tobacco through the holes in the floorboard to showing up the next season in a brand new crimson red IROC Z28 Camaro. Now maybe he got a little work. Maybe he got a little work study job. Who knows? Look, these things happen. And my only contention is that I don't believe that they're doing it to get the kid to Tuscaloosa in the first place.
That would have been an acceptable answer.
Once he's there, that's what I was trying to say. Once he's there, is money flowing all over the place? Of course it is. My contention is that Saban's not sitting at some kid's table and dropping cash on it, saying, come to Tuscaloosa. He's showing them national championship rings and saying, no kid who I have brought to Tuscaloosa and has stayed for 3 years has left without one of these. Would you like one? He doesn't need to throw the money out there. And so now, hey, aren't you going to softball, man? You got to get out of there.
Yeah, I'm going.
Okay, well, have fun, everybody. Tim, Jeff, the other guys in the chat, I don't see the names. Great talking to y'all.
Remember, Athens is only an hour and a half away from here, so I'm good.
It's how far?
Hour and a half.
Oh, okay. All right. I didn't know how far I thought you were like 4 hours. I thought, man, you got to get moving.
No, I'm good.
All right. Hey, everybody, stay healthy. Great weekend all.
I appreciate you, J-Dub. Later. We'll go to Jeff Grimm. Last word, buddy.
I do believe that before Monday, I do think Colorado will be part of the Big 12. I think that will be announced. I know it wasn't. I know it was reported earlier that it was, but I do see that happening.
I think that's a safe bet. I do.
I really do. You have a great weekend. Good luck in softball, and everybody have a great night.
All right. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks for coming on.
Bye.
Tim, you're up next.
Yeah. Well, I mean, no one dumps good news on a Friday, right? The dump cycle on Friday is bad news. So the Big 12, they're going to splash. They're going to want to do it like not on a Friday. So it's not, I don't think it'll happen today, but
they'll start the week off with hot news.
The thing I totally get what Jeff's going about, but I mean, the reason why USC was thrown on probation, stripped all that stuff, get those sanctions wasn't because we paid for Reggie Bush to come there. Reggie Bush started getting benefits is the end of his sophomore year from a marketing agent who wanted to represent him in the NFL. So let's keep it real. All the people want to come at USC and stuff. And if you think Pete Carroll needed to buy players as well, by your definition, it wasn't happening then either. But my point is that look at the argument we had yesterday, and no one's going to agree with me. All USC haters will go, "Oh, you guys are always buying players." But the one thing I want everyone to remember is that's what I love about college football and sports. I can go into South Bend, I can go into the Rose Bowl, I can go to some really unholy places and meet great fans. And what you find really quickly in football is that if it's political reasons, if it's geographical reasons, the one thing that holds people together is football. And we have a hell of a lot more in common, all of us football fans, than the other people that probably are our neighbors. So keep that in mind when we go at each other. And again, thank you guys for the time again.
All right. Appreciate you, Tim. That was well said, by the way. Good job, sir. We'll go to Kenny. Last word, buddy.
Yes. Another thing that we didn't bring up, and this will be my last word, was during the Chip Kelly eras, look at his all his recruiting with the Black Mamba and all that. And look what he did. He did great. That's because he knew how to develop the players. So that's my last word. And thank you for letting me come on and having my say. And I appreciate it. And I really love Gold and Blue.
Well, I appreciate you, man. It got a little hectic today because I didn't really want to rotate anybody in and out. So we had a lot. But I still think with as many people as we had on at one time, I think it flowed pretty well. I think it did.
Yeah.
Did great, Kenny. Appreciate you, buddy. Shooter, last word.
Yeah,
Shooter.
hey, God, that movie, I swear. Now, and just by the way, I used to actually do competition shooting in college. That's where I got the nickname. So
Nice.
not a golfer, but I
The
shoot
story
the 40,
behind the name. I like it.
yeah, I shoot the 45. So yeah, I was really kind of hoping we would get one of these schools before the weekend. That was the word I got from a Phoenix guy. He still says it's there, but I don't know. It could be Monday. It makes sense.
Yeah.
But I think we're going to see some Pac-12 teams moving. I'm looking forward to that, and I will say I think probably one of the most exciting games coming up this fall will be right here, man. Baylor, West Virginia. I think it's going to be.
I will be in Morgantown for that one too, man.
It will be lit, and not just the couches on fire. It's going to be lit on the field. So
yeah, exactly. That's going to be a good one. I wish you could come, man. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there.
It's too far for me. I wish I could, but
I hear you.
But y'all have fun, man, and thanks for doing this. I appreciate it. It's a fun channel.
Oh, no problem, man. I appreciate you coming on, buddy. Good job.
Right. Have a good one.
You too. All right, so I'm going to bring Joey on. Let me get to this super chat real quick. Mayhem Matthew, thank you for the $2 donation. Says Slob softball game. You know it. I will be there. I'm only an hour and a half away, so I'll be coming in the morning. And we have a new channel member, Eric Blomquist. So we appreciate you joining the channel. Now on to Joey's business. What's up, buddy?
Hey, man. All right. So here's what we'll do. We'll give away a coffee mug. We had a great show today. Appreciate everyone coming in and supporting us. We have 146 in here right now. So just pick a number between 1 and 146 and put it in the chat. First one to type in the correct amount will win the coffee mug. I've got it wrote down here. What number I'm writing down.
Say that again. Say that again.
So we have 146 in here. So everyone in the chat, just pick a number between 1 and 146 and type it into the chat. Between 1 and 146. Am I right? You bet. Yep. 146.
You have the number written down yourself.
I have the number written down, and I'm gonna sit here and watch for it. And that one.
I'll read them off. You tell me. Hey, I'll read them off. You tell me stop when I get to it. Okay.
Gotcha.
12.
Stop. Kurt Myers got it right there. 122.
122.
Kurt Myers.
Where was he at? I didn't see. Oh yeah, Kurt Myers. There he is. Let me put him on.
Yeah. So
there you go. You got it.
So
122.
Kurt, yeah. So Kurt, here's what you can do. Just email me at joey@goldenbluedude.com.
Can you put that in the chat?
Golden Blue Dude. I can. You bet we put that in the chat for me. So you bet's going to put that in the chat for you, joey@goldenbluedude.com. And just and we'll get you a coffee mug and get it mailed out to you. Appreciate your support. Thanks for being here. Golden Blue Dude, have a great day, man.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Hey, we might do that more often. That's a great idea, actually.
Yeah.
They got a lot of interaction right off the bat, too. Yeah, good job. I saw the interaction immediately. People started typing in numbers. Good job. So, yeah, type his email address. There it is, joey@goldenblue.com. So, Kurt, just email him, and he will get that figured out. Well, I appreciate you doing that, Joey. That was awesome, actually. All right, guys. Got to end it sometime. I know. We were having a lot of fun, but I got to go pick up a kid. So, probably not going to do a live show tomorrow as far as on the regular channel because I have the softball game. But I'll do the Patreon-only live show while I'm at the softball game. So, the Patreons will get to see some of the softball game live. And don't forget about the other perks for Patreon. We're going to have live streams just for the Patreons. You get a certain discount off the merchandise store. And then the regular season, the Patrons vote on the game that we're going to live stream and watch with me, Golden Blue Dude. So I watch the live stream with the Patrons. They vote on what game, and we watch it together. And the score prediction contest. There is a $20 winner every single week, guaranteed. I pick out a game. Patreons guess the score. Whoever comes the closest wins $20. And the higher the Patreon you are, the more guesses you get per week. $5 Patreon, you get 5 guesses per week. $10, 10 guesses, and so on and so forth. That's a wrap, guys. This was a great show. We had a great turnout. So I appreciate everybody that watched, everybody that commented, everybody that hit the like. Hey, on the way out, On the way out, hit the like button. Don't forget, this is going to be replayed. The more likes we get, the more it's going to be pumped out to people. So on the way out, hit the like button. That'll help the video. Appreciate everybody that came on the show through StreamYard and all the super chats. But I got to run, guys. But we'll do another live show on Monday. So y'all have a great weekend, and I'll see you on Monday.